Is the gentleman from Kentucky, Mr. Comer, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Strzok, Hillary Clinton has said publicly that FBI Director James Comey cost her the election. Do you share Hillary Clinton's opinion?
Sir, I don't know. I've read a lot of pollsters and a lot of speculation, but I don't know.
It's an important question because you think about Hillary Clinton making a statement like that about the FBI and the FBI director, as well as the statements that President Trump has made recently about the FBI. And those are the two leaders of each party in the last presidential election. So I think it does matter. Out of curiosity, are there any recordings of the interviews of the Clinton email investigation?
No, sir. I don't believe we recorded any interviews.
So none of the interviews were recorded?
To the best of my recollection, sir, I'm not. I would need to review the case file, but I don't believe any were.
Is that normal for
Yes.
an investigation of that size?
Yes.
Mr. Strzok, did you consult with James Comey before he made the decision to go public days before the presidential election with the fact that the FBI was going to reopen the investigation into Hillary Clinton's emails once it was determined that Anthony Weiner had access to the emails and potentially had access to classified information? Did you consult with James Comey before he made that decision?
I was present at meetings where that decision was discussed.
Do you think that was the right decision?
Sir, that's also a difficult question. I think for all of us, it was kind of a 51-49 proposition. I came out of that decision comfortable with doing so.
Did Ms. Page consult with James Comey before he made the decision to go public?
You'd have to ask her, sir. I don't know that she did, but
well, we hope to get to ask her some questions. Do you think that James Comey leaked out the, well, let me back up. In a text message from you to Ms. Page, you mentioned insurance policy. That's been referenced many times today. What exactly did you mean by having an insurance policy in case, I would assume, President Trump won the election or was looking like he was going to win the election?
Sir, I appreciate that question because it is taken very much, I understand it's ambiguous and that people have taken it out of context. The insurance policy was merely an analogy to you do something when something isn't likely to happen. You're probably not going to die before you're 40, but you have an insurance policy anyway. What we had before us was an allegation that something significant, that members of the Trump campaign may have been working in cooperation with the Russians. And some people were saying, hey, look, this sensitive source of information that's so sensitive, so vulnerable, we shouldn't put it in danger because sometimes if you go out and do aggressive investigation, if it's a drug snitch or intelligence source, you can cause significant harm. And a lot of people looked and said, hey, well, look, all the pollsters, everybody in the world is saying it's not likely that President Trump's going to be elected, so don't worry about it. We can just let this lie. I had a different view, and I said, you know what? It doesn't matter whether or not he's going to be elected. We need to do our job. We're the FBI. We need to aggressively go out there, pursue the allegations, because
let me ask you this.
But I want to finish up because
you've answered the question. Do you think that James Comey leaked out about the reopening of the Hillary email investigation because he needed a, quote, insurance policy to cover his back for predetermining that Hillary Clinton was innocent in the email investigation before it ever even began?
I don't think Director Comey leaked anything with regard to that I'm aware of with regard to the Clinton investigation. I certainly do not think he, I, or anybody else viewed any investigation or any step in the sense of what you're saying that we needed to do something to prevent any particular action at all.
With respect to the clear bias of Donald Trump in your text messages and your clear prejudice against the Trump voters, and by the way, I'm one of those smelly hillbillies from Appalachia that you referenced in your text, you were in a supervisory role at the FBI. What would you do if you found a text from a subordinate of yours that exhibited the same type of bias that you had towards a group of people that were key witnesses or key whatever to the investigation? How would you handle that scenario?
Sir, if I found a text for a subordinate that was expressing a political opinion, one, I don't think I'd see it, and two, I think it's entirely appropriate. If your question is the text was about a target of an investigation, talking about the target, that's an entirely different matter, and I'd bring that subordinate in and counsel him. But those are apples and oranges. They are not at all the same?
Well, I will conclude by this statement, Mr. Chairman. I believe that this is a bad day for the FBI. I believe that we have an overwhelming majority of quality FBI agents and intelligence agents all across the United States and all across the world. But it's unfortunate that when reading the Inspector General's report and sitting here listening to your testimony, watching the reactions from some of your colleagues behind you with rolling their eyes and frowning faces, and it's just very discouraging as a member of Congress that we've tried this hard to get information. The American people want to know. This Russia investigation has been going on for a long time. Many believe that it is a witch hunt. It needs to wrap up, but from what we've heard today, there are a lot of problems with your credibility as the lead agent in the entire Russia investigation. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Does the gentlewoman from Texas, before we close, and we will now be closing, does the gentlewoman from Texas